What is going on, guys? It's your boy Chef Raedar here. We are at Trust Food Works. It is about 8 o'clock in the morning right now. We're here to get the fire going because today I'm showing you how to cook a brisket my way. Stay tuned. Make sure you like and subscribe because you know this is going to be great. Let's go. All right, guys. So there's a couple things you want to make sure and pay attention to when you're making your fire, and one of them is type of wood. I just go for any kind of hardwood. I really do not care the type at this point. You know, this bin, all I'm really doing is burning this wood down to hot coals, and then I'm going to transfer it over to my my big rig, and that's what we're going to use to cook. So yeah, I'm just going to build a fire and get it going, and then we'll load this bin up, let it burn down to coals. And while that's happening, we're gonna go inside and trim up the brisket and yeah, get it going. So we are inside, we've got our brisket. This guy is probably about a I'd say 12 to 14 pounder. However, it is not ready to go right out of the bag. This is what we call a packer brisket. So they have literally taken this off the cow and vacuum sealed it. So I have to trim this up, and that's what we are going to do. I'm going to show you how I do it, just how I, my preference, because every chef has a different preference. But yeah, and also the other difference is how we are going to cook it will affect how we are going to trim it, such as if we're cooking on a pellet grill or straight over charcoal or in an oven. It all will affect it. So let's get this guy opened up. Usually I like to break the seal over on this piece of fat on the back. Then we're actually going to be taking that off anyway. Normally I'll have one glove and use my knife for everything else because I absolutely hate gloves. Doesn't feel natural to me. Prefer to skinny dip, if that makes sense. So, use this knife, get this off, set this aside, and we've got our brisket. Beautiful, but like I said, it's got all this fat, which is what brisket's known for, is the beautiful fat, but we gotta trim it up. So, first rule of thumb is anything that looks like it's gonna burn, keep it to the side and take it off. Yeah, I'm going to keep it to the side just so you guys can see how much I am taking off. Not that it really matters, but afterwards I'm probably going to cook that down. But yeah, up here we've got what's known as the point, and down here is the flat. You'll notice that there's a big difference in the thickness, which is one of the big challenges of actually cooking a brisket, because you've got this thick part and this thin part, and the thin part will cook quicker, and so that is one of the challenges you face. So up here in the point inside there's a lot more fat, so I like to take a bit more of the fat off the top, not much, but generally I like to keep about a 1/4 inch, and you'll hear that from probably every chef that cooks brisket and has a video of brisket on YouTube. So start taking a nice big chunk off. And this part will kind of follow right down to the flat, and there's one little hunk. Keep in mind, every brisket is going to be different. No human's the same. Everyone's fat content is different. So every cow's fat content is different. But yeah, let me spin this around so you can see a bit more. So up here, I'm just really trimming that down. Long strokes with the tip of my knife to get it nice and smooth. And you really want to try and make it as aerodynamic as you can, so the smoke really flows around it. Believe it or not, that's all I'm going to do on the point. Like to leave some fat. Actually, the only other thing I'll do is sometimes you'll notice these brown spots, and that's actually when they're packing the briskets. They use a hot water bath, and it's in there for a quick second, but it does oxidize some of the exterior meat. And Not that it's bad to eat, but just for the heck of it, take it off. Alright, flip this guy over. Like I said before, you got this hunk of meat right here, or hunk of fat, and you want to get your knife right behind that. Don't be afraid to pull. That's all hard fat, and that's fat that's not going to render down in our cooking process. Alright. A lot of chefs will waste time, and a lot of guys will waste time on taking the silver skin off. This thing is in for over 12 hours. This stuff will break down. If you really want to, if I was in a competition, I would take the time to break it all off and take it down, but when you're doing about 8 of these at a time, you don't want to spend a half hour working on that. Alright, last little spot, this guy here. It's the only part that's not really aerodynamic anymore. I'm used to doing this towards me, so it's harder doing this showing people, but we'll figure it out, right? So trim that fat, and over here you can actually see just how much fat. Let's see if we can, just how much fat there actually is on this brisket. So there, we've probably got a ½ inch. Straighten this edge off. And if you're haven't paid attention or haven't watched my last video of the kitchen essentials and you want to know what knife I'm using, you can check that video out, but also we will have the link in the description, as well as everything else that I'm using that we can have links for. So that, in my opinion, is a nice finished trim brisket. I don't like to do much more because fat is flavor, and that is the best part of the brisket. So I'm gonna clean some of this stuff up. We're gonna come back and we're gonna season this guy up and get it ready for the smoker. So next, we're gonna get into a little bit of a complex part. I hope you guys are able to follow along because yeah, this next part can get tricky. We're gonna get into seasoning. So when I season, yeah, this blend, it kind of gets complicated, but salt and pepper. That's it. That's all you need. Cows eat the flavor. Yeah. Wow, that doesn't make sense. The food the cows eat is all the flavor that you need, plus this stuff. So we're gonna take my salt and pepper. I've got a liter container here, and we go, and we're going to be doing about a 50-50 blend. A lot of guys will call this the Texas blend because that's all they use down in Texas is salt and pepper. And if I'm being completely honest, that's probably where a lot of my influence comes from. I fell in love with a lot of smoked meats when I was 13 and had my birthday in Texas, and got to watch guys smoke using their big rigs, and you know, that's when I decided I wanted a big rig. We're not quite there yet, but we'll get there. So the one thing with salt and pepper, you mix it. Pepper likes to sink, so you want to kind of always keep it moving. Brisket can handle a lot of seasoning, so don't hesitate. So we're just gonna sprinkle this on here. You want to make sure you get a nice coat. And by the way, this is cracked black pepper. It's not ground pepper. Ground pepper, it's going to absorb way too much moisture, and you're not going to get a nice bark. And best part of barbecue is that bark. So we're going to get this nice seasoned up, flip it over, and yes, we are going to do the sides, but we might as well get the big surfaces first. So we're gonna, and do not be afraid to put too much. Brisket can handle a lot of seasoning. I have purposely pushed it to the limit to see if I can oversalt a brisket, and I've yet to oversalt one, and I've probably put like a cup of salt on a couple of them. So I like to use my hand, let the seasoning kind of fall on it, and then rub it against the sides, get it nice and coated. Just give it a rotate, do the same kind of thing here. And one more sprinkle for good measure. And that, my friends, is a perfectly seasoned brisket. All that's left, we're gonna let this kind of continue to come to room temperature. We're gonna let the salt sit on for probably about a half an hour at least. What this is gonna do, salt is gonna start to begin to draw moisture out, and that moisture is then gonna dissolve the fat, or dissolve the salt, and then kind of reabsorb the salt into the meat and help to season the meat right the way through. Once that is done, when it's around room temperature, we're gonna head outside and I'm gonna show you how to get my grill up to, or my smoker up to temperature, and how I'm actually gonna place this on the smoker, because how we place it on will make a difference. So we're gonna clean up, let this do its thing for about a half hour, and we'll meet you outside. All right, so we've trimmed the brisket, we've seasoned the brisket. Now it's time to cook the brisket. We've got Cheech here. This is my big rig, straight charcoal powered. So like we started at the beginning of the video, we've got the burn bin. If we want to come over here, the wood has now burned down to this beautiful beautiful coal. We've got some nice, beautiful embers. And we're just gonna fill this guy up. And same with the back guy. Now these trays actually go all the way down to the other side, but I like to keep the heat on one side. And you'll see why when we actually put the brisket on the smoker. Now this guy's just got to heat up. He'll probably get, once it hits about 225, we're going to get the brisket out here and get the brisket on the smoker. All right, so we've got our briskets. We've got our at temp smoker. Cheech is puffing away. So let's get our brisket on. So if you remember when we put the coals in, they came in on this side and I kept it to this end. This brisket, like we mentioned when I was trimming, we got the point that is a lot thicker. So we're actually going to take this brisket and put the fat end towards the heat. So that way it's going to get a bit more of that direct heat from the heat. The ambient heat then, which is going to be a little bit lower than the direct temperature coming on the point of this brisket, is then going to cook the flat, which, if all goes as planned, this brisket should cook evenly. So we've got this guy on. All that's left is patience. We will update you along the way. I'm going to, show you a few different things, like when we wrap, when we, different temperature points, but the biggest part is done. Now it's all just patience. All right, so we are about an hour and a half in. Just wanted to give you a little update. You can see how it's starting to look real nice. We got some nice burgundy colors here, so you can really tell the smoke's really starting to penetrate. You see the surface starting to dry, which is going to allow some of that smoke to stick and that flavor to penetrate. So hour and a half in, we got about 12 hours to go. Or sorry, 10 hours to go, but this is going to be phenomenal. So keep tuned and we will update you again. Alright, so we are here to check in on our brisket. We are about 5.5 hours into this cook. It's starting to look really nice. Let's turn around. Oh wow, that is bright, but now you can actually see me. Yes. So like I said, we're about 5 hours into this cook. The brisket's looking good. We're going to open the smoker up so you can check it out. At this point I do have my my Inkbird thermometer set up, which allows me to kind of connect it to the iPad so I can see the temperatures inside without having to be out here the whole day. But it also keeps temperature of the product. And I've actually got, I'll give you a quick peek here. Alright, so that's the actual unit. You can see it's jumping between a few temperatures, and I'll explain what those are in a second. But then you can see I've got it here all hooked up to this beauty. Oh, there she is. So you can see it's got a nice beautiful amber color, like more of a burgundy, right? And you can see my different probes. So I've got one of them that's kind of an ambient probe over here for the flat. And then that guy is actually recording and reading the flat temperature. Then we move over here, we got one reading the point temperature, and then another ambient one for the point. That kind of allows me to get a feel. I'm going to shut this so we can continue cooking, but that kind of allows me to really monitor the temperatures that are around it, kind of make sure they're where I want it, make sure it's cooking at the rate of speed that I'm wanting it to, making sure I'm in control, right? And that's kind of the biggest thing of cooking, making sure you're in control of all that, and yeah, so you don't burn things. Anyway, check in later. Alright, so we have reached around 160 degrees internal temperature on this brisket. I know that by my Inkbird. It is looking quite fine over here, so we are actually going to pull out these two guys here. Set them aside for now. And I am going to take this guy and we are going to give him a wrap. Alright, now that I've got him wrapped and back on the grill, we are going to now reprobe him. Make sure I've got the probes in the right spot. And I want to get this shut so that flame will go out, or at least die down. Readjust my ambient probes. And once again, we'll come back in a bit. Once this guy's probably hopefully done, we'll show you what we do to get it resting. And then one more step, and we finally get to taste it and enjoy the absolute goodness that brisket is. Stay tuned, we'll be back. Alright, so our brisket, we have made it through the stall.
If you're not sure what the stall is, basically anytime you're cooking any meat, whether it be slow cooking, fast cooking, hot and fast, you're going to hit a stall. But you tend to notice it a bit more in the slow cooking because you kind of have a little less momentum of cooking power, I guess you can say, to put in layman's term. But yeah, basically it'll hit that point where it stops increasing in temperature, but there's a lot of other things going on inside of that brisket. A lot of fat's being rendered down, all the intermuscular fibers, the tissue fibers, all of this stuff is being broken down and allowing it to kind of further cook and further render down. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, okay. But yeah, so we are through that stall. It took about an hour and a half. Kept temperatures steady. Didn't freak out, because if you freak out, you increase that temperature thinking that it's not cooking, then you're gonna start to hot and fast cook it, and it'll still be good, just won't be as good. So you really want to keep those temperatures right in that 225 range, which I do not think I mentioned at the beginning of this cook. But yeah, we're cooking at 225 degrees as accurately as we can for the whole time. But yeah, right now, I believe, let me just check the internals. So we're sitting at about 175 internal for actually both flat and the tip, which is beautiful. That's exactly what we're going for. Sometimes I can get up to a 16 degree difference. Still works out. Still actually balances out right around that stall, as long as you keep your temperature steady. So, that being said, we're going to check back right when this is about to hit 203 degrees. Then we're going to hit it in a cooler, let that sit for an hour, and then slice into it, and we're going to see this beautiful goodness. Alright, so see you in a bit. So our brisket has reached temperature. We are sitting right at about 202 right now, so any second, it's been sitting at 202 for probably about 10 minutes now, so any second we're going to bump over and hit that 203, and that is when I want to take it off the grill, pop it in this bad boy, and we're going to let it sit for about 45 minutes to an hour before we actually cut into it. And at that point, yes, we're getting to the end of this video, but we're going to be able to cut into it, take a look at it, see the waterfall of juices that come on out. Hopefully, who knows, this could be a dud. But we will head inside after that, or we will head inside after we get this in the cooler, and then we will wait. So let's do that. We've come to the end of the journey. Started about 12 hours ago, and yes, I am tired. This is what I'm going through to do things for you guys. So you know what you can do right now? Like and subscribe. Now we'll get into the brisket. The moment we've been waiting for. Let's unwrap this brisket. Look at that. That's exactly what you're looking for. Still holding its shape. Well, still pulling the same dance moves your mom did in the 60s. Oh, it's beautiful. So, all that juice I left in the cooler. So now the moment that we are waiting for. Let's cut into it. Just listen to that. All right. The moment we've been waiting for. Oh. Look at that. Juicy goodness. And on the other side. Oh. Oh. Does that not look phenomenal or what? I can't stop looking at it. Just look at it. Just look at it. All right, and here is the moment of truth. Let's give it a taste. The pull test. Oh.
Ah. Sweet, sweet victory. Ah. Mmm. Mmm. You shouldn't be filming this.
Yeah, probably not.
Mmm. Well, that's brisket. If you like this video, make sure you hit this like and subscribe button below. And make sure you chew before you talk. I know my mom's gonna yell at me for this one. But I'm sorry, Mom, it's brisket. I can't help it. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.